Hello viewers, this is going to be relocation vlog number 3. There's not going to be any picture to this segment, it's just audio. It's been about 3 years now since I've had the means to purchase a house, and needless to say, it's just really not going well, and I'm starting to get pretty agitated about it. I have been aware of the real estate market for about a decade. Years ago, I used to look at it a lot for the pictures of the ceiling fans. This is back when the forums was going on. I used to look through a lot of listings and take the pictures of the cool ceiling fan installs, and we post them on the forums, and we talk about the fans. Did it a lot when I was in college because I didn't live too close to the university, so I would have classes that were, an hour in between them, and I have, an hour to do something. So I would just go on the computer and I'd look through the photographs and see what was there. So I wasn't really looking necessarily to get a house for myself at the time, but I had a pretty good idea of what was available, what you could get for what price, how often things showed up, what the trends was, etc. And for a while, it wasn't unusual that you would see 20 or 30 new listings show up in the course of a day or two, even just in the local area at a limited price range. And they were nice houses too. It wasn't just like junk. There was a lot of house for that price. It was pretty good. And in 2019, I had been working for several years, and I had saved up the amount of money that I wanted to have to make the move. And so I wanted to do it. Everything looked pretty good. The prices were not bad. You could get, at the time, really, you could get a lot of house for a very reasonable price. The mortgage rates were pretty average, nothing outrageous. And it just seemed to me like a great time. And I was advised to wait a little bit longer, not much longer, but just a little bit longer, save up a little bit more money. And I didn't like that decision. I was never comfortable with that decision from day one. And it's very seldom that I make a decision I'm not comfortable with, but for whatever reason, I did it. And I have to let that go, because obviously that person had no way of knowing that this was going to happen. But the reality is that decision was an absolute fatality. That was a horrible decision, and I just have to live with that. But I have to get on for that because can't change it, and no one that had that conversation knew this was going to happen. So that's just, it stinks, but that's what happened, and that's that. So 2020 comes around, and there becomes a mass exodus of people from, I think it was mostly from New York City, into this area, which is more rural, and the supply of houses just tanks. And you look at the listings, and nothing would appear under $300,000, sometimes for months at a time. I mean, you could go 50 days with 0 listings and a reasonable price point. 2021 comes around, people say, "Oh, this is going to be a great year, blah, blah, blah." And nothing happens. January, February, March, April, spring, summer comes along. Nothing. The one redeeming factor is that the interest rates were quite low. And so you were able to afford more than you typically would because the rates were so low. Then the fall comes around and we start to go into winter, let's say October, November, December, and something happens and stuff kind of seems to return to normal. A bunch of houses come on the market. They're all at a pretty reasonable price point. They sell for a pretty reasonable price point, and stuff is looking okay. So I said, okay, here we go. Got my mortgage in line. Everything is ready to go. The year changes over, and it's out like a light. Nothing. The market is empty. Nothing in January. Nothing in February. Everybody keeps saying, oh, well, when the spring comes around, you get more houses, you get more houses. Well, spring is here, and there is nothing. There's been, maybe 10 houses listed in the market this year in this area under $400,000. And the problem now is, even if listings show up, they're useless because, number one, the prices are just astronomically high. There's nothing showing up in a reasonable price range. Another issue is the mortgage rates are going through the roof. They're upwards of 5% right now, up from low to mid 2% a couple of months ago. So now, and that's a big issue, because that jump of 2 or 3% is a couple $100 a month. So that's really playing with what you're able to afford. Cost of living is going up right now. Almost everything has gone up substantially. We're talking like some things are double the price of what they used to be. Food, 20 to 30% what it was. Easy. Gas, 50% what it was. Increase. It's wild. And so now that, even though most likely is temporary, that is also affecting what you can afford, because you look at the monthly expenses, and now instead of paying $100 on gas, you're spending $200 on gas. And instead of $400 on food, now $550 on food. And so you have to compensate for that. And so what you can afford is going down and down and down. In this state, the mowed salary is around $35,000 a year, which in this part of the country doesn't go very far. I make more than twice that, and I still can't even touch any of these houses that are showing up. And what's confusing to me is that I don't understand who's buying these houses, because it's none of the working class people, because we don't have that kind of money just floating around. These houses are selling through cash offers. Cash offers well over the asking price. And so it's like, it's starting to get really frustrating, because it's a waste of time. It takes time to go to the showing. You take pictures, you look at the photographs, you look at all the stuff around the house, check for all the problems, and then you spend a bunch of time looking at the finances. What if I live here? How much does that cost? What if I get, this electric company or that electric company or this cable provider or that? How far is it going to take me to get to work? How much is it to get to the store? Where's this relative? And that, you see all these different factors you got to go through to decide if this is somewhere that you even want to live, and if you can afford it. Then you got to come up with the price that you want to pay. Then you got to go through the loan calculator and say, well, I'm going to pay at this percentage this much, and then so the mortgage can't be above that percentage, and you got this much down, and it changes this and that. A lot of time. And it's a joke, because you go into it and you're not going to get it, because I can only afford to offer, let's say, 20 or 30,000 over the asking price, and I know I'm not going to get it, because they're all going for 75,000 over the asking price or more. And so it's a waste of time. But then on the other hand, like, what are you going to do? Just sit there and do nothing? You have to at least try. But on the other hand, it's totally pointless, and it feels totally pointless, and it's pointless. So that's going on. And then now, these are just personal problems to me, is that it's this whole process is being so drawn out, and it's taking so long, that I'm done with it. I don't want anything to do with it anymore. I find zero pleasure in going to the houses. I used to think, oh, I'll buy a crummy house and save some money and fix it up. I don't want to do that anymore. I really don't. It's taken so long to get the stinking thing. The last thing I want to do is have to spend months on end fixing it. And, just paying someone to fix it is not an option because I'm going to blast through every last penny I have just to get the thing in the first place. So, which means I'm going to have to do all the repair myself. And it's going to take forever because I work 2 jobs. So, what am I going to do? Fix the house an hour a day? I mean, it's like I'm never going to get it done in a reasonable amount of time. But I can't buy a house that's turnkey because even the house that's a piece of junk sells for way more than what I can afford, what most people can afford. So it's like, okay. The other thing that frustrates me is that I've always wanted to do this. Like everybody has different aspirations in their life. Some people want to go on a vacation somewhere. Some people want to buy a car. Some people want to have children. For me, it was always I wanted to buy the house. And so for years, I've anticipated this and what a fun and exciting thing it would be to go look at all the different houses and find one that's what I want and be able to buy it and work on it and fix it up. And I thought it would be a great experience. And it's not. And it really stinks because, you do it once or twice in a lifetime and it's going to be a trash experience that at this point I'm just over it. And I'm nowhere near being over with it. Another issue I'm noticing is that a lot of people have updated, use that term loosely, their houses recently. And so finding a house that I really want, which would be something from the 70s or the 80s that's been untouched, is pretty much impossible. I have not seen, sans one house that was not in a good area, I have not seen a true untouched time capsule house show up in months. And they used to show up pretty often. That's where I would get the photographs of the Zillion vans from. So now it's like I'm gonna buy a house that's not even what I really want because what I want doesn't exist. And if it does happen to exist, it's usually in bad condition now because unfortunately the trend, and not intrinsically the case, but a lot of times the people that maintain their houses and take care of them typically update them every decade or two. And the people that don't update the houses, they just don't really take care of it. So when I find a house, let's say, that still has an old bathroom, well, the bathroom's in terrible condition. It has to have to get changed out anyways. So it's like, if I'm going to have to replace everything, why look for something old just to have to take it out and redo it anyways? Might as well buy something ugly and modern and redo it because I have to change it regardless. The positive side to that is now I can go around and find the exact stove that I want and put it in and find the exact, whatever that I want and put it to. But again, we go back to the other thing. I don't want to sit there and do that anymore. I don't have the ambition to do it right now. I hope that changes once I actually get the house. But as of right now, I just don't feel like dealing with that. So that stinks. The whole situation just stinks. To me, the absolute worst thing about the whole situation is that there's no time frame. And without a time frame, it's impossible to decide what's best to do. Even if it was something ridiculous, like 5 years. Let's say it was known that it would be 5 years before this corrects itself. Fine, I could live with that. At least now I have a time frame, and that's the information that I need to develop a plan of how I'm going to get through the next 5 years. Let me find something to rent for the next 5 years, or let me invest in a condo for the next 5 years. Let me do something that would put me in a living situation I'd be satisfied with, that I can be comfortably waiting for this to fix. That doesn't exist. And so my biggest concern about renting an apartment, which I may have to end up doing, is that a lot of them are on a yearly basis. And so my concern would be that I would miss out on a house that comes up, because I'm thinking that if it does become feasible, it's going to be a quick and short period of time like it was last year. And if I'm stuck on a yearly lease with an apartment and I've got 6 months left on the lease and the house shows up, can't buy it because I can't afford to pay both at the same time. And so that concern kind of prevents me from renting a standard situation. So I don't know what to do. I don't think anybody does. I just take it day by day and hope something shows up. And, I'll give it a couple more months. And if nothing happens, then I'm going to have to figure out something else.